Working in customer support is never easy. Working in tech support? I can't even imagine. Welcome to this episode of Tales from Tech Support. Our first tale is from Shapiro's wife's BF. I work for an MSP, so we handle a ton of clients. One client has an IT coordinator that's our main point of contact for all tickets. The client has determined that individual users are no longer to send us tickets directly, but they will instead send to this guy and he will determine which need to come to us and which can be handled by him in-house. He is useless, utterly useless. The client would get the same results by just auto-forwarding his email to our support email address and firing him. His most recent ticket was about a new user getting set up. He said, and I'm pulling direct from the ticket,
"Manager informs me there's a new hire starting next week. This is the first I've heard of it. I don't know what computer she'll be using, but it needs application installed."
Cool. If only there was someone there, like some sort of IT coordinator or something, who maybe has direct access to communicate with people on site there. I replied back asking for some additional information, like, a name. His reply,
"Manager could best answer these questions. You should reach out to her."
I reach out to the manager and leave a message. I do so for the next 2 days. Finally, the IT coordinator gets back to me.
"Let me clear up some confusion. I spoke to manager and she says the new user already has a desktop. The only thing left to do is attach her email to the computer. She won't need any additional setup or licensing."
My brother in Christ, what is her name? What computer is she on? What on earth are you coordinating? I send back a politely worded email just asking for a name and computer.
"I do not have that information readily available. Manager knows. Give her a call."
So I do, and I finally reach her. The computer was already set up last week by one of my other techs. I do a quick once-over to make sure everything is working and call it a day. I send a reply back to IT coordinator to close up the interactions. His reply?
"Thank you. Could you reach out to manager and see if she's moved the new user's desktop to the admin area?"
Motherfucker, that's your job. Your whole ass job. The entire reason you make $110,000 a year, paid for by my taxes. It absolutely baffles me that somebody who's supposed to be in charge of IT wants to keep putting their job onto other people. It just seems like this person wants to do the least amount of work for the most amount of pay, and they're inept in what the fuck they're doing. This next tale is by BombLord1. A staff member emailed me because they were getting a deluge of emails from a Yahoo email address with phone screenshots of random pictures pertaining to another individual's posted info, among other oddities. They thought it was some kind of strange attempt at phishing, and I advised to just block the sender, which they did. As soon as I hung up, I got a call from our public labs asking why someone's print jobs weren't releasing at the printer. I did my usual troubleshooting. Is the printer online? Can I send a job? Can I send a job from a public station? Etc. And it all worked. I even did a printer restart just to be safe. So then I walked to the release station and saw the name attached to the broken print job was the same as the junk sender email address from before. What? Just to confirm I wasn't going crazy, I had them attempt to release it again, and once again, it didn't work. I called the staff member back from earlier and confirmed that the exact print job that was just released showed up in their junk box. So sending a print job using print release software was, instead of sending to the printer, we even tried sending it to a different printer, sending an email to a completely unrelated staff member. I restarted all the relevant print services and this thankfully fixed it because I have no clue how I would have even began to troubleshoot that problem. Whenever I think of printer or copier issues, I just think of the scene from Office Space. They really got back at that printer copier at the end, and I feel like a lot of people wish they could do that to electronics, specifically copiers and printers, that don't work in their office space. This next tale is from Zal Lavoie. I'll be honest, I thought you were all lying to me. I thought you were just coming up with the weirdest thing you could think of a user doing. But today, I learned that the stories were all true. It was just a standard tower replacement in our usual refresh cycle. I did the same thing I've done over and over already. I ran our user migration tool on the old computer, then I set up the new computer and ran the tool again to restore the files. I made sure the user could access her emails, made sure her browser favorites showed up properly, got her printer installed, and then I was on my way. By the time I got back to my desk, I was getting messages from her demanding that I bring the old computer back because all of her files were gone. While I'm loading up her old hard disk drive, I tell her that sometimes the user migration misses files that were in non-standard locations, and ask where the files were located so I can retrieve them for her. She says she's missing hundreds of files, and they were all on the desktop. Now, I saw her desktop earlier. I know there weren't hundreds of files there, thankfully, so I figured they were in a folder. And that's when memories of this subreddit flooded back to me, and I decided to look in the recycle bin. Sure enough, there are hundreds of files there. So I take a screenshot and ask her if these are the missing files. Of course they are. That's obviously where you want to keep your important files so you can reuse them. Now I get the joy of trying to explain why it's a bad idea to store files in the recycle bin. Maybe if I'm really lucky, I can convince her to actually use our cloud storage, but I won't hold my breath. Edit. So I explained to her that the recycle bin was meant for deleted files. True. And that several times in the past, the company had discussed setting up a policy that would automatically empty the recycle bin every week. A lie. That, combined with the scare of all her files being missing, seemed to drive home how precarious it was to keep files there. I moved her files to cloud storage and set up a shortcut to it right next to the recycle bin named Files to Reuse, in the hopes that she will get in the habit of using that instead. Luckily, she put files in the recycle bin by dragging them, not by using the delete key, so I don't have to worry about that at least. I remember reading a story a while back about somebody that thought the recycle bin was just somewhere to store files, to keep all of their important files and things they use constantly. But the recycle bin is just that. It's a recycle bin, it's not a storage space. This next one is by Miyoka2368. I used to work doing internet tech support. One day an email comes in. Guy was upset that his internet died in the middle of an online poker game and he lost money because of not finishing the hand. Dug into it, found that there was indeed a problem in the area, and dispatched techs as normal, but he had mentioned the name of the gambling site he was using. Their office was across the street, and I had a friend who worked there in the account's customer service end of things. So I fire her a text saying that this dude opened a ticket and they did indeed have internet issues. She replied back that he hadn't, but also his account has never had any real funds added to it, so it has to have been a free practice game he was playing. Oh, end users. You have to love how this guy's upset, most likely because he felt he was doing good, he was in the moment, and he was potentially winning money. But the catch is if you're playing with the free bonus money that those casinos give you, you're not going to be able to cash out until you make a deposit, so he got himself upset for nothing. At least his internet's working. And our final tale is from Mindless Charity 4889. Way back in the late 90s, I worked as a software developer for a tech company in the Pacific Northwest that produced portable data logging devices. These were battery-operated, self-contained units that monitored things like temperature, humidity, etc. One of our product lines was certified intrinsically safe, as it was completely encapsulated in silicone and had no electric ports. Instead, it had an optical port and you could communicate via light wand. The unit was popular as its construction essentially made it waterproof. We sold these units all over the world, and one of our clients was a refrigerator manufacturer in a South American country. They would put the unit in the freezer compartment of a fridge on a production line as it ran through a test freeze and defrost cycle. They would then retrieve the information at the end of the production line to verify that the fridge was working within specification. Normally, the information would take seconds, but on occasion, the device would have trouble communicating and would take several minutes to download the data. This was a problem since it slowed down the entire production line. Our tech support guys were unable to help the customer. We could not reproduce the problem here. The issue was passed to us in development, both hardware and software, but we could not duplicate it either. So the client offered to fly an engineer to their location and put them up for a week. Our company asked for volunteers and I decided to go. It was a very long flight, but I arrived at a surprisingly clean and modern airport and was put up in a 4-star hotel. I was assigned a driver and an interpreter. The next day, I was driven to the client's plant. After passing through security, I was shown the station where the devices were downloaded. And that's where I spotted the problem. Remember, the units had no electrical ports and only communicated through an LED for both transmission and reception. The company was removing the units from the freezers and putting them on a table, right underneath a large fluorescent fixture that was only 2 feet above. I immediately realized that the light fixture, which could have been flickering at 50 Hz, was tricking the occasional unit into communicating. Once it goes into the communication cycle, then plugging in the light wand simply confused it until it had a chance to reset a couple of minutes later. So I told them to turn the devices face down on the table. That prevented the light from triggering them. I also reported my findings back home and we worked out a new firmware protocol to eliminate the problem in newer devices, but simply placing them face down until it was time to plug in the light wand solved the issue. I spent the next few days touring the city and buying souvenirs. The client also paid for a really nice meal at an Argentinian-style meat house. I could have stayed the whole week, but I wanted to get back, so they exchanged my ticket and sent me home after 4 days. The thing is, we would have never thought of this back home. Sometimes you really have to be on site to figure things out. P.S. While I was there, they mentioned another issue. Employees were occasionally stealing the units. Apparently, they liked using the magnetic bag devices as fridge magnets, especially since the flashing LED indicates a full device looked good. They asked how much it would cost to install RFID trackers or even cell phone trackers into the units to reduce theft. I simply told them to remove the magnets. They weren't using them anyway, and to turn off the LED blinking via software command. After that, I don't think any more were stolen. I guess it's not shocking that a device that communicates with and through light would end up being somewhat bricked when placed under light, because it just fools the system. And you're right, sometimes you have to directly see the problem to be able to diagnose it. I'm glad that you were able to get it figured out almost immediately, were able to have a mini vacation and got back sooner. Alright, that's enough tales for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Tales from Tech Support. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.